guys, it's me Rebecca. So this will be the start of another weekly vlog, and so for today I've just done some cleaning and whatnot. I had to go out and run a couple of errands. This is something quick. I had to just grab something from Home Depot. Yeah, and the weather is quite dreary, very rainy. Like we're expecting snow tonight, and we're supposed to get quite a lot, like between 4 to 8 inches. So yeah, looking forward to that. Food will be the first, I think, like big snowstorm again in my area, because previously like we've just gotten a coating or an inch at most. But yeah, and if you saw my previous video, my previous vlog, you know that I ended it reading The Haunting of Ashburn House by Darcy Coates, and I have done some reading today. I'm now on page 208, and I would say I'm really loving the atmosphere. Like, it's very haunting, very creepy. Like, I like the fact, like, at night the house has this new life to it. It seems like it is more alive at night, or something's coming alive at night, and our main character, Adrian, her I guess she thinks her imagination's like acting up at night because it's very dark. She things aren't exactly what they seem like. There was a quote in here I did underline, and it's really the only quote I marked so far, just because I think that it's very appropriate. It's on page 166, and it just reads, after, sorry, yep, sorry about that if you heard that. A bottle fell, it's part of our second song. But she sees this shrub that she didn't see previously, and it looks like a woman, and she thinks, it's amazing how much nighttime can change something. I never noticed that shrub before. It probably looks just like any other plant in the daylight. I don't know, I just find it interesting how things like come out at night, and Adrian, she is finally noticing that near the pattern of the birds freaking out, like around 7 p.m. and she does later on after she noticed it, try to like document it, and it seems like when she's trying to write down proof, it doesn't happen. Like when she's intentionally keeping an eye on it, it's not gonna happen, which I find something that. And whatever, and as well, she also notes it's like an isolating thing. Like it's something that's only happening to her, and it seems like it's affecting the rest of the town, because if it was, people would talk about it, but I mean, if it was normal, it would be like, oh yeah, it's 7 p.m. and the birds are going off, but to her it seems like it's this happening to her. The house is quite far from the town, so yeah, there's that. And she, on a daybook in a kitchen, Edith or someone scratched, "Is it Friday?" Light a candle, and that just gives Adrian the creeps, and she did cover it with like a tablecloth. And she goes into the kitchen and sees the tablecloth on the floor, and she thinks, oh, Wolfgang or cat knocked it off the table for some reason. And she does put the tablecloth back on it and puts a vase on the table to prevent the cat from knocking it down again. But later on, she sees that someone, that the vase fell onto the floor and is smashed, and could be Wolfgang, but probably it wasn't, because she probably would have heard it if she hadn't been home. Yeah, and you find out, and she does go into the woods where she found her friend Marion, who crashed her car, and she finds the grave that Adrian was on top. Not Adrian, my God, that Marion was on top of, and it's for an E. Ashburn, who she thinks could be Edith's grave. Like for some reason, Edith is buried on the property on her own, and she tries to find more stuff about that. And Adrian does have this moment where she realizes she doesn't want to be in the house. She doesn't like it here, and she doesn't have to stay, but she decides she wants to or has to. Either because she has no choice. Like, she moved out of her friend's apartment because it wouldn't have worked out, and she's lost touch with a lot of her high school friends, and she doesn't really have any other connections, like where to stay. But also, I think there's something about the house that she's drawn to, and as well with the town she's drawn to. Like, she wants to stay in the town. So. Yeah, I do like after she finds the grave. She has this dream of like this woman coming out of the grave, and I think that's supposed to symbolize like the ghost of this woman. I'm wondering if it is the figure or whatever that the reason that Edith took down the mirrors and why she is like light a candle, and I think that's like almost playing with Adrian in the house. In the house, it's more haunting at night definitely because like there's no lights in the upper level, and at one point Adrian, she tries to turn on the light switch in the downstairs area, and the lights this one turn on, and she has to use this like lamp that's like oil infused, or it's in the oil field sort of lamp, I guess, in order to find a way to see from it. And it turns out the next day when one of the other girls who came to the house originally to find Marion came back, she showed Adrian that someone had messed with the fuse box, turned everything off, and it was this really weird. Like, Adrian thinks that someone is just playing jokes because she was told that people in town, like as kids, they used to dare each other to try and see how close to the house they could get, because the house is something, but also Edith would lose her mind if you were near her house, apparently. So yeah, and speaking of Marion, when Adrian goes check on her after the crash, after she's been released from the hospital, Marion's acting off. She's behaving unlike the girl that Adrian had met earlier. And Marion mentions she saw some woman in her rearview mirror when she was driving, but something has seemed to have freaked Marion out, because she took down all of the mirrors in her room and told her friend to bury them, and her friend just gave them to Adrian. I don't know, and Marianne's mother just seems that isn't the best caregiver or whatever she is, because after Marianne takes down the mirrors, and her mother puts up new mirrors, and Marianne breaks them, and her mother buys these unbreakable mirrors, and it's like she thinks that everyone should be as strong as she is, or I don't know, it's a whole unhealthy dynamic, it seems like. And yeah, and we do see how Adrian, she does go into town to really learn more about the history of the house and the history of Edith. And when she goes into the library and looks at these old papers, like from around the time the murders took place, she sees someone was very precise and cut out any articles talking about the details of the murder in all of the newspapers, no matter if they're a very long article or a very tiny piece. Like, all articles are gone. And she also wants to learn, like, if someone like was particularly obsessed about a house, if they wanted like possession of it or what. And she is told 2 times, one by a librarian and one who's a pet receptionist who knows like most people in the town, that everyone was intrigued about Ashburn House and about Edith, but no one seemed particularly obsessive about this. And we do learn more about Edith's backstory in the sense that we do learn like that she left after the murders and came back when she was 18, when she inherited that house, and that she went and visited it and knew. And it seems like everyone in town has their own theories on like what happened, like with the murders, like, and so crazy. And one person says that his grandfather was a police officer who was on the scene of the murders, and he talks about like how everyone was like so dismembered, how people's hearts and bodies and arms were in different parts of the house. Like he describes it like someone baptized the house in blood, and Edith was the only one who survived because someone locked her in this cabinet. And people assumed, oh, it was her probably because she's the sole survivor, but that wouldn't really be impossible. And because she was 8, but I mean, some children, yeah, but also because the cabinet she was locked in, you could only open it from the outside, so there was no way she could lock herself in that cabinet. And you see how people they came up with their own theories, because what actually happened, or what this guy said happened, is so gruesome that's almost unbelievable. So yeah, there is that, and I would say I'm very much intrigued in what spook Marianne, what is messing with Adrian, because someone is messing with her. She hears creaking on the floorboards outside. At one point there's a handprint on the window, and someone is shutting off the fuse box even when she takes her shoelace and ties another one the door to the fuse box. When she goes to check, it's the same knot and but still someone's turned off the fuse box switches. So yeah, something's happening. I don't know, but I am intrigued, and I am intrigued by the fact that right now Adrian really doesn't have anything to tell her what day it is, because she doesn't own a cell phone and her laptop stopped working, so she doesn't have anything to tell what day it is. So I am curious to see what would happen when she realizes, oh, it's Friday. What happens when it's Friday? I don't know, I'm just intrigued. I don't know, I just found that an interesting fact. How the cat senses something and is scared by it. It could be something as simple as he's scared of his owner's reflection, but still. But yeah, that's all for now, and I'll see. So it's the next day, and we did get a good amount of snow. I would say we got a couple inches, so not the 4 to 8 that was predicted, but still, it's something. And yeah, I spent this morning shoveling, just cleaning it up, and I have to say I really hate the part when I'm at my end of the driveway and I have to deal with the snow that the plows just push up against my driveway, just because it's quite heavy. But I had to deal with that, and yeah, since then I've just been relaxing and some work. I don't know, it just took it out of me for some reason. I don't know why. I'm pretty tired. But I have done quite a bit of reading, and I did finish The Haunting of Ashburn House, and I definitely enjoyed the atmosphere. I enjoyed the isolating vibe to it and whatnot, and I did give it 4 stars. So sorry for that jump. I had an eyelash that was annoying me, but while Sarah, the librarian who's helping Adrian look at the articles, while they were unable to uncover the articles themselves, Sarah did find another article a couple years later of a body being exhumed, and this is important because it was the body of one Eleanor Ashburn. And the article doesn't say who Eleanor is to Edith. Adrian thinks it could have been Edith's mother or her aunt, someone like that. We do learn later on who Eleanor is to Edith and the relationship between the two of them. I'm not gonna say this because it is a huge part of the plot, I will probably say that Eleanor and the fact her body was exhumed does play quite a big. Whoa. Does that spoil? Probably. But yeah, but while Adrian is returning to that house, she passes through the grave and she starts to think maybe E. Ashburn is Eleanor, but also maybe Edith is also buried alongside this family member. But when But when Adrian goes to the grave and takes a look at it, she notices it's been exhumed. And she turns around and there's a fucking corpse standing behind her, and a corpse chases her out of the woods into the house and attacks her by trying. So Adrian is injured, and she realizes she's stuck in the house. She cannot really leave the house as the corpse is circling it, and if she tries to leave the house, it will attack her again, and the corpse is making these clicking sounds which are freaking out her and her cat. And it also seems like the corpse is doing everything in its power to prevent Adrian from leaving the house. Like, Adrian tries to start a fire big enough that the people in town will notice, and she's hoping maybe someone will come up and she'll be able to leave. The corpse is able to do something to prevent the fire from raising up, but instead it's causing the smoke and the fumes to lower into the ground, and it seems like it's trying to isolate her, keep her stuck in this house. And it's just, and we also know now the reason that no mirrors were allowed in the house. And apparently you can see the ghost of the corpse or the corpse itself in the mirrors while it's not in the same room as you, and a lot of strange things starts to happen in the house while the corpse is almost attacking it. The portraits in the hallway, they start changing, shifting, and it starts to look like how the family might have been feeling when they were being attacked, and how they looked after they were killed. Like Adrian noticed that Edith's mother's jawbone and lower jaw was completely off, and it's just quite gruesome, the details, my god. Yeah. And Adrian finds a box containing the articles in Edith's room and learns that there's 5 bodies that were removed from the house. The thing is that she only knows about the 4 victims, so who the hell was the fifth victim? And she also learns that the cabinet that Edith was hidden in wasn't a cabinet now, but a hidden basement that Adrian didn't find when she was walking through the house, and Adrian later finds the basement, and more being attacked by the corpse, until she finds a letter from Edith which fell through the floorboards into the basement. And Edith explains the whole thing, explains who Eleanor is to her, and explains her events in the murder. Oh, not events, my god. Her role in the murder. I'm sorry. And really everything that Adrian needs to learn to stop the corpse, who somehow possessed Marianne, which I don't really know if that wasn't really explained properly, in my opinion. I think it's if you look in the mirror long enough, then the corpse will be able to possess you. I understand, but yeah, but Adrian learns what she has to do to stop the corpse and stop the whole thing, and she does that, and really the end of the whole thing, the thing is, what Adrian did currently is a temporary fix. She knows in the future she'll probably have to deal with this again, and sooner or later the ghost will be kept at bay permanently, and she and everyone in her family can move on with their lives and from this house. So Yeah, and we also do learn that the messages written on the walls weren't really for Adrian, they were really for Edith herself, because as Edith got older and her memory started to fade, she had to keep reminding herself what she had to do to keep the ghost at bay, and really like what happened that caused her for this ghost to be a thing. And with Edith, Adrian had a lot of contradictions about her, because the town people would say she was this rude old lady who was standoffish, and yet Edith, like, she was nice to Adrian in her actions. Like, she left Adrian in the house. She made up a room for Adrian. Like, there was some food in the pantry. Like, and it kind of makes sense, because in order to protect the townspeople, Edith had to prevent them from going to the house, so she had to be standoffish in order to prevent anyone from wanting to seek her company. She had to put these signs up and prevent people from using this like side road she had in, let's say, keep them away. So it makes sense, like she had to be standoffish in room and isolate herself in order to protect the townspeople. So in order to protect the townspeople, she, I don't know. Overall, I enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars, like I mentioned. So yeah, and the next book I'm probably gonna start will be the book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I'm looking over there if you're noticing, because it's still on my bookcase over there. I'm just too lazy to get to the point now, so I will talk more about it tomorrow. But yeah, that's all for now, so I'll see you on next. So it's the next day, and I've just done some cleaning and whatnot, and a load of laundry, and yeah. And I have done some reading, and I think I mentioned yesterday that the book I was going to begin today is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. And this follows 2 characters. One who's a boy who's lived his whole life trapped within a book-choked chamber older than empires and larger than cities. And we also follow a girl who spent hers in a tiny settlement out on the dust, where nightmares stalk and no one goes. The world has never even noticed them. That's about to change. Their stories spiral around each other across worlds and time. This is a tale of truth and lies in the hearts, and the blurring of one into another, a journey on which knowledge erodes certainly, and on which through the pen may be mightier than the sword, blood will be spilt and cities burned. So yeah, and we start this one with our lead girl. Her name is Livria. I'm sorry if I butchered that. I'm sorry if I butchered both of their names, because I'm not sure how to pronounce them. And we see like her at the end of a fight, and we know quite quickly she's quite strong-headed. Like, she's someone who will get into a fight because someone said something that upset her. We also see her talk into shoulders, even through like they're quite rude and tell her to shut up. But with Livia, we see like she's at a fight, and her aunt calls her away. Like, it's not mentioned like what happened to her parents, which I've been intriguing. Like, not mentioned at all, which is interesting, I would say. I don't know. I'm less intrigued about what happened with them. But one day these creatures come to her like settlement and attack her and her like they attack her people. She suspects they killed the majority of the adults, and they take the children or the young people of the settlement almost hostage. Like, they are tied to on this rope chain, being led out of the settlement, and it's unclear where they were going to be led to, if it's like a place for these creatures to feast upon them or what. But these creatures are then attacked by soldiers who save them and take these people to the city to be allocated. And we see how when they're on their travels and then in the city, how she just keeps asking these questions, and one of the soldiers, he has a foul mouth. Like, every other word that comes out of his mouth, well, every sentence he speaks, I should say, really, he's cursing. Like, he keeps saying fucking and whatnot. He keeps threatening Olivia until that he'll like hit her, and he doesn't until they're in a city where he has to kind of like put up a front here, like he's this tough guy who's not gonna listen to these people from the outside. These dust people, there's name used for them, but yeah, she just keeps asking her questions. Like she's just very much curious about everything going her surroundings and what's going on, because she's never really been out of the settlement, it seems like, but she's been very much curious about the city itself. And when they're in the city, people like spit upon them. Like the people in the city, they don't like the settlers or the people who are outside the walls of the city, because they blame them for not doing enough to stop these creatures. And we see how the other children, they're separated from Livia to be allocated, but for some reason this one child takes her to another place, and she runs away from him, and ends up like with this master where she says something, and he leads her into this room with another girl to almost be tested, and she's asked to multiply, divide, to read, to write. It seems like she wasn't really properly taught. Like she was taught skills to survive in a settlement, but nothing like she knows how to count the beans and how to count this and how to count that, but she doesn't really know how to read. She does write something, and it just sets these other people off. Like it seems like, from what I understand, there's like some sort of test to enter the university, and she fails. Like they deny her. And she leaves, and the one master who had her kind of like had a whole thing set up so she could go into this test, and tells her he has a job for her in the library. And that's where I left off with her part. I should say, I forgot, I'm on page 76. Sorry. And we also then, the chapters, they kind of jump between the two main characters, but we also follow this other character whose name is Ever, and he and his siblings are, he says, imprisoned in the library, and I would use siblings in quotation marks because he keeps saying they're siblings, but they come from different generations, so I'm not sure what that means. And at one point, all of them were trapped in this Vita mechanism, which is like a machine you can enter with like a book, and it will like fully immerse you in a book. Like you can visualize, and it can help you understand the book better and whatnot. And each of his siblings, they entered that mechanism, and the mechanism ate them up, and they were trapped there for many years, and they were just spit them out. Some of them were never longer than others, but most of them left with some skills. Like he has a sister who's really good in martial arts, a brother who's good in psychology and whatnot, and yet he's the only one who doesn't have a special skill. He doesn't really remember his time before the mechanism, or really his time in it. And as well, he's the only one out of his siblings who's trying to find a way to leave the library, because they're not able to unlock any of the doors. He's trying to find different escape routes in the floors and the walls. He's even trying to build a staircase to the roof. Like he's trying to do that because he has to go and save someone. And one day he's being chased by this creature can just leave the mechanism and enter the library. When he finds a book that is written in a language that his sister cannot read, and yet he can, and there's a message for him in the book, which is, Ever, don't turn the page, I'm in an exchange, find me at the bottom. And it's addressed to him, so yeah, and I'm very much curious like who this person that he needs to save is. I'm also curious about Olivia and what her job in a library will be. So yeah, but other than that, I right now don't feel immersed in the story personally. Like something about the writing, like I still don't feel very immersed. Like I somewhat understand what's going on, but yeah, I'm intrigued to say the least. And yeah, I think I might do some more reading today. But if I do, I'll let you know tomorrow. But yeah, I think that's all for now. So I'll see you. So it's the next day, and as you saw, I did go out today. I just had to run a bunch of errands, and then I just went to this antique store. There was a lot of very beautiful things, but nothing that I really wanted. But I've just been busy all day, and but I have done some reading, and I'm on page 136 of the book that wouldn't burn, and I would say I'm still very much intrigued. I don't feel like I'm in the story yet, but there's a lot of ideas and concepts I do find fascinating and interesting, I would say. And where I left off is these things called the escape, which are like these creatures that come out of the mechanism. Usually, it's common just for one to come out, and it's not impossible or rare or anything, but it's like unheard of for four to come out, and that's what happened this time. And with the siblings, never. It's not just them in a library. They also have this shoulder that's there to watch over them and whatnot, and an assistant, which is like when they were younger, like a mother figure to them, the one who taught them and raised them, and with ever a shoulder to cry on when he needed one. But with the shoulder and assistant, both they seem like put off by them. Like they are very ivory. Like their all details, like their hair, their eyes, their skin, like everything's so ivory. And the shoulder, like he attacks the escape, and really the escapes are sucked back into the mechanism, and it's almost like mechanism also wanted the siblings as they did escape. And we then jump to Livia. I cannot say her name, I'm sorry. But after her allocation trial, Oud, if that's how you say his name properly, he takes her up the mountain to a house, and a woman there who is familiar with him and his ways, like, she's just like, really, Oud? Another one? But she bathes Olivia and feeds her, dresses her, makes her look more presentable. And it turns out this woman is Oud's like housekeeper now that was his house. And Olivia and mentioned something that probably is a throwaway line or something, I'm not sure, but Oud, he doesn't seem comfortable or at home in his own house, so I was that. But he takes her to the entrance to the library and puts her in the care of this teacher, who's gonna teach her how to read, to write, and all of these different languages. And we see how she meets her cohort, which she seems to begin pretty along with pretty well. And we see how she, with the fact she's from a different upbringing, how she's used to doing certain ways, like doing her own dishes instead of letting the kitchen staff do it, and how she will have her own room all by herself. And we also see like she, even though she's in an environment where she should feel safe, she's still in this like fight or flight sort of mode. Like she will hoard the bread rolls in case she needs them when she has to run away, even though like the bread rolls in her room are like molding and whatnot. Like she wants to make sure she has sustenance when she has to flee again, or when she'll probably be in a position where she won't have food. So it's pretty interesting seeing like her not kind of still have ways of her upbringing, and it's only when she's alone in her room that first night that she allowed the grief to kind of overtake her in a way. It's described this wow, I just feel like that. I'm not able to find that page, I'm sorry. But what I have to mention is, for some reason, she blames herself for what happened in it. And the fact that it allowed her to have this new life. Like, she feels guilty, and I'm just wondering why. Like, it's not like she called the creatures, the Sabers, or whatever they were, that attacked her community. Like, man. And with Ever and his siblings, they go and how they all of what happened and whatnot, and they all look at Ever for answers, because even though he thinks he knows nothing, they know that he doesn't not know, and nothing, like they know he knows stuff, because they taught him. All of them taught them stuff, including this missing brother Marilyn, who was obsessed with history, obsessed with myths and whatnot. They all wanted him to be their apprentice, and so he does have some skills. So I do find it interesting seeing like he actually does know anything, even if he doesn't, even if he thinks he knows nothing. But yeah, and we also learn no reason that Shoulder attacked that escape, and it was because he wanted to save the book that was in Ever's possession, and Ever's siblings tried to get their hands on it, and he's like, I'm just gonna make it easy for myself, and he tries to give it to them, only for the assistant to say it's his book, and when she touches it and gives it back, the spine and the cover change, and there's an image that shows up. Yeah. And later he's trying to find another way to escape, and the Shoulder finds him, and he tries to reason with the Shoulder and say he's trying to save her, the her who knows is, but it also seems like to bring something out on the Shoulder, because he mentions that the Shoulder's eyes get way darker, almost black, and the Shoulder's he also needs to save her, and almost threatens Ever that he harms her, there will be consequences. I don't know. I'm intrigued to see that about the Shoulder, and who that she is, and whatnot. And there is something here. So when we jump back to the various part, we see her studying and whatnot. And there's something I'm curious about, if there's this thing that the king is the voice of truth, and that he controls what books people should read, and I'm wondering if that will come into play, if he's gonna use the library, which is the source of truth, to push forward his agenda, because we do see signs of him doing that, with saying oh, you should read these books, or control kind of what books can form an alliance, or where text is written to form an alliance as well. There's something about certain books, older books, not being in the library, and when Livia tries to question it, she is silenced. There are things she shouldn't question, and I am very much curious about the, more political aspects of this novel, and yeah. But yeah, that's all of my thoughts for now. I'm pretty damn tired. It's been a long, cold day, so I'll see you when So it's the next day, and I've just done some cleaning and some other bits and pieces and whatnot today, and I have done quite a bit of reading of the book that wouldn't burn, and I'm on page 218, and there are concepts in this book that are intriguing to me, how myths and legends kind of build our knowledge to what we know, and it seems like this world is in the future, way down the line in the future, because at one point ever, he quotes, "This doesn't look like Kansas anymore," and it's like the way they're talking about it, it's like almost like a very distant thing, like something that was like from centuries ago. So I do find that intriguing. But other than that, like I don't feel very like connected to the story. I think it might just be the author's writing style. I don't know, but I am intrigued, to say the least. But yep, and I guess recap is that the students in Livia's group, they they are assigned to look for a book by apparently someone who was at her allocation trial. This lord who is related to the king, who is involved in this bet with Wood and Healings and won this bet. And the teacher gives them 2 days to find this book, or one of them will be kicked out of the class. And Livia's just like, she knows it's her because this person has like a grudge against her because she is in a position in where she shouldn't be, because again in the city people of her kind of dust people, or people from the dust, they are looked down upon. And yeah, and when they are in a library, which the way it's described and from what we see of Livia's adventures in it, it's like one big labyrinth, and I find that really fascinating. But she learns that the library is kind of made up of like a vast variety of systems, because if each new had librarian, there's been different organizations now, and it's not a sort of library where there's like 5 copies of the same book. In the library, there's only 1 copy of a book, a different book, and there's copies like thousands of books. And at one point, she does run away. She, from what I gather, it's like Game of Snakes ladder or something, but without the like slides. It's like she's climbing up all the way and away from her group, and she ends up in different rooms and whatnot, and she ends up in this one room where it's like a maze. Like there's different paths that lead you to different places, but all of these paths will take you to the same place, which is back to the start. And she whips out a page, which is just like one of them decoration or declaration page, and uses it to try and draw a map of this labyrinth. And a raven comes out and starts squawking at her, and so she puts the page back in the book. And Livia, she also had this part of a page that flew to her when she was in the dust, and she's been carrying it around, and the raven also wants her to put it back in the book, which is weird, as for some reason there's like a lock or something in this book, and she doesn't want part of this page because it's really all she has left of the dust, and she doesn't want to get it. And yeah, she follows this raven until she finds an assistant who is gravely injured, and she ends up in this like in between place. I'm not gonna go into details on like how, because it's complicated. Like from what I understand, the assistant touches her and she ends up being pulled out of this pool, or I don't know. But she does meet Ever, and that's the first time that you will interact. I'm assuming they're gonna like interact more. I'm not sure. But he helps her find the book she's looking for, and she promises him to help find the girl he's looking for, and she's gonna stay until she's pulled back into her own world. And yeah, and she leaves the library, leaves all of it behind, and is able to stay in that class. That's her story so far. And I have to say, when she and her class are in the library, one of them says on page 144, "This is power. This is where the histories are. This is where the great philosophers are. This is where the secrets that arm our shoulders with arrow sticks are written. This is where the next secrets will be found. You think our people would have even a fraction of what they have now without the library? It wasn't many generations ago we were fighting each other with bones and logs. You thought fire was a great magic, and I think that's still relevant to today's time because, and why the discussion of libraries and the opening or closing of them or almost censoring of them is important because books, extremely old, very, very powerful texts are kept there. Like books that showed us the history of our kind and how we've evolved and changed and like how we fight and how we think and what we believe. Like that's still, I don't know, I found that quite an interesting quote and quite powerful in a way. Like in a sense, like libraries are important in preserving our history is also important in texts because it might help future generations understand where they came from and how humans evolved to get to where we are now. I just found that interesting. And yeah. And now if ever we find he is still trying to decipher the message at the bottom of the book. And there's this pool in the library and he thinks like that could be the answer and he goes through and he does end up in the in-between world thing way before Livia's and she came out of a pool and was pulled back into the same pool, and when he tried to follow her it almost like sealed itself up to him. But before he encountered her, he did find like an image of the girl he was looking for carved into a tree, and it kind of brought some memories back or made him feel something. And he doesn't know he loves this girl, so yeah. And he goes into another pool and he ends up in this world, and it comes quite clear that he is witnessing the attack that killed his sister Clovis's family and really what led her to end up in the mechanism. And he witnesses the attack that killed her family and he sees like, not sees, but when he is there, he's almost like a ghost. Like he is just a witness to what's happening. He cannot interact with the people. He cannot stop what's going on or help them in any way. And also he sees Clovis's like, I guess, true story in the sense like that they went through a pool, and that's where I stopped. And yeah, I don't know. There's yeah. I am intrigued in seeing if this Lord will kind of have more attempts in getting at Livria. If there will be more attempts in trying to get her kicked out and whatnot. Like, I do have to say the one interesting thing about his request is that when Livia's leaving the library, she encounters another assistant who informs her that the book that was asked for is the only book that they have 2 copies of. So yeah, I don't know. I just found that interesting. Like, will that be relevant later on? I don't think so, but yeah, I would just say I'm very much intrigued, and yeah, we will see where the story takes us. So yeah, I think that's all for now. I'm sorry if it's getting dark. I'm from a next window, but it is like 4:30 and the sunset is just happening. So yeah, I'll see you when I see you. So it's the next day, and it's been quite a long day. I've just had a lot going on and whatnot. Like I've had to do some work, and I did do some groceries and some other bits and pieces. But I was able to do quite a bit of reading in between everything of my errands I done today. And I'm on page 294 of the book that wouldn't burn. And at one point I do have to admit, I wasn't really like paying attention to what was happening. There was this fight sequence, and yeah, I wasn't paying attention. But before that, I can talk about we see how Livia, how she steps out of the library for the first time in 2 years, and it's almost like when she's there, while she is there, it's like she's frozen in time. Like yeah, she's growing and changing physically as a person, but and with the learning and whatnot. But everything is the same in the library. Like the people, the majority of them are the same, and the only thing that tells her time is changing is the new trainees coming in and their placement in the classroom. Like they start off in the very back and they're slowly making their way up to the front, and she compares it to to the point where they'll be out of the door and be proper librarians. So I do like that, I guess, analogy. And yeah, she does try to find Ever and find her way back to that in between the there was a proper term for it, that the assistant was like, oh, it's forbidden to go there, and it's like start to think I don't know what the proper word is. But when she tries to talk to the other assistants, to the other librarians, tell her about this chamber, like this library is so huge and vast that they think she's lying, like it's like some hidden chamber that no one seems to have found besides her, which I find is quite interesting. And she and another person in her group, they are tasked with like leaving the library and bringing a stack of books, like 4 satchels of books to the laboratory. And when she's on her way, she runs into Salamonda, who is Ude's housemate. She brings both of them into the house after complaining both of them are sticks. And we see how she is reunited with Ude, who she hasn't seen in 2 years. Like she thinks like he abandoned her for something else, like that she was this shiny stone, and then but yeah, that's not the case. He has been keeping up with her in her studies, and he wants her to find the library's greatest curse, which he perceives that is, even though we change and so do our surroundings, he wants her to question the speed of progress that this occurs. Like, where did we come from? Where are we going? Have we walked this path before? Like, it seems like he thinks in a way like humanity and whatnot. Like, it's like an endless cycle. Like we repeat it constantly. Like the civilization of the past, the current or future civilization, like they read about it in the books in the library and they inspire to be like it. And because he wants her to break this cycle or try to. But yep, when they get to the laboratory, it explodes, and the master that they're supposed to meet to give the books, he sees Malor, who's apparently been tasked by someone to watch out for Olivia, and he assumes that they were expecting trouble. I don't know, the whole scene and the way things are perceived, it was quite interesting because different perceptions of the same event lead people to different conclusions, and yeah, when really it seems like maybe this was an accident, as it tends to happen, it's also laying blame on someone else, someone who is this person, and also maybe this was that lord who was out to get Olivia expelled from the library. He failed in getting her expelled. What's next? In getting rid of her, getting her killed. So, but yeah, and you see how Olivia, she follows one of the masters throughout the library. Like it's following this maze, and he ends up just going to this like reading room that's in that depths of the library, and it's weird that, and she just loses track of him, and she has this book of dust that when she opens it, things go back, and at one point she gets stuck in a book, and the Raven comes to rescue her, and whatnot, and she does end up back in that in-between place with her, and it's quite interesting with that one because for her, 2 years have passed since they've seen each other. For him, it's been mere minutes, and I think it's an interesting thing the way that time works differently, because it's not really like in between worlds, it's like in between time, because they figured out quite quickly that he is from her future and she is from the past. So That's really why, like, when they end up in a different world, he is a ghost while she's not. Like, she's affected by this world they end up in, he's not. Like, so it's probably because it's his past in both of them, or her present or future, I don't know, but I just find that concept interesting, the fact, like, in his time, she's probably this very old lady, and yep, and they end up being attacked by escapes, and she ends up in the pool, and yeah, he just loses track of his own pool, and you can feel be stuck. And also, I do have to say, if ever, like, I guess because all he's known really, or all he remembers is the library, like, he doesn't remember trees or anything. That when he sees what trees look like, he's like, oh yeah, I've seen trees before, and when he's talking about the stars or the wind, because the way they were described was either quite different in his texts, or he never, like, was able to visualize or really experience it. He not enjoys it, but it astonishes him, I guess, in a way. Like, he's like, what is this new thing? I've only wanted to put it in books. I just find that funny. I don't know, I'm liking that part, but yeah, I guess I'm intrigued. I don't know, I do need to read more, because the last, like, 30 pages was them figuring this stuff out and fighting the escapes and other what. And unfortunately, for the last, like, maybe 20 of that, I just wasn't in the best headspace, and I wasn't really paying attention, unfortunately. But or maybe that's also still Mark Lawrence's writing. I'm not entirely sure. It's because I am intrigued, but I just can't really visualize this. I guess it's the library. It's supposed to be like that. Like, the library is so expensive, and this world so expensive that's impossible to visualize it. I don't know, but yeah, I think that's all for now. I am exhausted. It's been a long day, so I'll see. So it's the next day, and I've just done some work and whatnot. I just had to do some computer stuff, and yeah, I don't know why I woke up so damn tired today, and I've just been feeling tired only. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I've done the work I had to do on my computer and whatnot. I've just been taking it easy today, and I have done quite a bit of reading, and I'm on page 356 of the book, That Wouldn't Burn, and finally it seems like we're getting into the more political stuff in Olivia's world. How history is almost viewed in the same way as fiction. Like, it's almost like people cannot believe that what's happened in the past actually happened to people. Like, it astonishes them, and yeah, and we also see, not everyone is, like, able to put their book in the library. Like, Olivia doesn't understand how that can be, and we also see how she defies the book to try and write down her story. So, because she believes that every author, like, puts a bit of themselves into the pages of the book, and that's what she wants to do, is put a bit of herself in the pages, like, have her story known and be remembered in a way, which I find interesting. And we learn that the Sabers, they're getting closer to the city wall, and that the librarians are tasked with finding books to help, like, people in the laboratory to develop more powerful weapons to fight them. And we also see how the king doesn't see the people who live outside the city walls as people, because they come to the city to seek refuge after the Sabers destroy their communities, and he's just letting them live outside the wall and, like, almost homeless, and he doesn't treat them well. And it seems like he's trying to villainize them, in a sense, like, making people in the city think it's their fault for the Sabers attack. And we did see earlier that the people also believes, like, that people living in the dust weren't doing anything to stop the Sabers. And we also see how that affects Olivia and her I guess she's worried about her status in the library because of the fact like the librarians, the other head librarians have tried to kick her out and have her expelled because of the fact she is from the dust. And yeah, we do jump in time and like a couple of years, and we learned that the sabers, they did get into the city and are like scouting the mountain, trying to find their way into the library. Like living on things that they are looking for a way to eat them, and it's like this, they're just looking for information to use against them. And before that, before her learning that the sabers are on the mountain, Oud summons her and another classmate, Milan, to his house, and the three of them go to be an audience with the king, who it's like the sort of audience where people from different things are announcing like who's moved up in status or in position, like people from the laboratory saying, oh, this is the new assistant, this is the new blah blah blah, like. And never she is afraid and worried that this is really just like a public show to have her expelled, because it would say a lot to have her expelled from the library, like showing that the king is right, that the people from the dust don't belong in such positions. But no, he is also making his own political statement, and he makes her a junior librarian. The king tries to deny it, saying no, people from the dust cannot be librarians and whatnot. And you see how that fails, and how the lord that has a grudge against her tries to talk you out of it. And then we learn that Oud was prepared for this lord to hire an assassin to kill him in Vita. And we see how that attempt occurs, and we also really see how Oud, he knew this would happen, as I mentioned, and he did hire a soldier, the same one who Livia has a history with, and yeah. And when they get back to his house, Oud tells her he wants to stop the cycle in humanity where we build ourselves up and then we destroy ourselves, how there's powerful wars, so powerful and strong, and that we destroy everything, we destroy all of our civilization, and it's like we with Thomas, we start and we build from scratch, and we don't take those lessons from our histories, but other things. Like he at one point states something that I think is fascinating, and it's that there are wars so powerful that they prevent us from writing down our histories. Like we are so worried about the war and protecting ourselves in the moment that we don't think, oh, we need to write this down, we need to record it, like, or even when we have that thought, it's too late to record it. And it prevents us from knowing such inventions as clocks and gasms. And at one point, after he says that, I think she had no idea what a clock was. And I don't know, and interesting. Like he wants us to stop destroying ourselves, essentially. But in order to do that, we must stop all wars. And everywhere she is, in a way, at war, she is involved in the war. Like she does deny, she denies his cause. He tries to recruit her for it, and she denies his offer. And then we jump 3 years to her being a junior librarian, and it seems like sabers are in the city, and attacks from them are quite common. Like, and that the weapons used against them have become more and more powerful. And anyway, despite the fact it's been over 10 years, and despite the fact so much has changed in her life, both personally and professionally, she still has a strong hatred. She cannot help but remember what they did to her when she was a little kid, and like destroying everything she knew, killing everyone, every adult she knew. It still has this huge effect on her, and she would like to see more powerful weapons being built to destroy them all. And she, it seems like, is just more concerned about the fact, like, not the fact, sorry, she's still trying to find her way back to ever, really. Not, like she is hoping that he found the girl he's looking for and got a happily ever after. Like, that's what she thinks, really. And I guess she just wants closure from that and from him. And so she's looking a way to get back to him. And with him, like, we didn't really get much of from him. Like, he ended up in a world that's way before his own time, way before Navia's time, and we see how things are different there. And he just walks away from the sabers attacking these people because he cannot stand to watch this happen again. So yeah, that's really all we got. I do have to say I am enjoying the more, I guess, political aspects in how history, like if we take history into account, how it might change things if we actually believe history and what our forefathers went through, and then maybe things will be different now. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just curious to see how this all plays out. So yeah, I think that's all for now, and with that is the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, tell me what you've been up to recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel, and if you want to follow me on any social media, then all those links are in the down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post.